Hi, welcome back to Renee Ruth Real Estate. Hope everyone's doing well.
Welcome back.
Renee, how are you?
Hello. Oh, I'm staying warm
Yeah, you are.
in the
I am
cool
too.
weather that we have here.
I know. We never really know.
It's like, one day it's 80, next day it's 30.
You just have to be prepared.
We like to talk about the weather before we start.
We love talking about the weather. Full newscasting here.
To be fair, the weather does actually affect real estate.
It really. Oh, that's true.
It actually. I mean, when it snows, I will say that you'll get the one person that's like, "Can you show me property?" And being Canadian, I'm like, okay,
right.
But like, there's cars in ditches, there's like those gung ho. I'll see it any time of the day, but for the most part, if it snows, you're like, oh, day off, because we don't usually get days off.
Right.
So
no,
it's lovely and sunny, not a day off.
Fabulous today. We love it. Yeah. Love it. All right. So here's a fun way to intro this.
I'm ready because I don't even know what we're talking about today. We did not get there. Yeah, no, what is it?
Warren Buffett doesn't buy real estate, and you probably shouldn't either. I know this is a real estate podcast. Let me finish.
Okay, but I'm pretty sure Warren Buffett owns all his homes.
Well, he does, but he literally only has a 40-acre ranch and his personal home, and that's it.
That's it.
That's it in terms of, okay, let me finish.
I'm not allowed.
Let me finish. The whole point of it is the fact that
literally the headline is
right.
that.
That's literally what it says.
You probably should
When I saw it, I was like, we have to talk about this today. We have to talk about this. The point being, well, because of course anybody that knows about Warren Buffett knows that he's like he's the guru of investing.
Yeah, right.
So he knows how to invest, and he's done it very well.
He's usually investing in the market,
right?
Not physical assets, but
right, because his whole thing is that he said you should be making money all the time. Like literally, and I don't disagree with that. So
how do we do that, Chad?
Right?
Anyone got to we're working on that.
We are working on that. Yeah. So I mean, his long-term investment strategy has always proven to be successful. But he said that a lot of it has to do with his strategy. But the point being, with all of this, is you have to understand what you're getting into.
Okay.
And so his whole thing was, if you're looking for passive income, being a landlord is not the way to do that. So he said the way that you're investing in real estate is very important.
Okay, hold on.
So
when he's referring to passive income, and he's saying that being a landlord is not the way to do that, is he referring to the current culture that says, let me get loan after loan after loan after loan and rent out all these apartments that I have loans on? Or is he talking like, I'm cash heavy and I decided to put it into...
Well, again, his whole thing is about knowing what you're getting into. What kind of passive income are you looking for?
Okay, so I'm gonna This is why, so Chad and I have a little whiteboard over here of all the places that we're gonna own.
That's right.
Apparently, Warren Buffett would not think we're wasting our time.
I don't think he would, because when we get to the rest of it, I think it's all gonna make sense.
So we have like a bunch of places, but we've said many times, like quite a number of them would just be we wouldn't be
there all the time, obviously.
Also, not turn them into we're not buying them for income. That's
Correct.
Not the purpose of them. But they could maybe do that, but that's not the purpose for us.
Right.
But with Buffett, so here's what happens. I get these kids, and they some of them don't even own a home themselves, and they're like, "Hey, I want to get an investment property." I'm like, okay. I was like, "So are you cash?" And they're like, "No, I'm gonna get a loan." I was like, "Okay." So we start looking at townhouses in the area or whatever in the area, and we're looking at so the mortgage is going to be blah, blah. Now, back when the rates were 2%, this was actually laughable. Like you could have been someone that invested in property and had a very low mortgage compared to rentals.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
And potentially but this is what I tell them all. I'm like, if you are getting a mortgage on that home, that is not income producing for you until you have paid off that home.
Right.
Then it is income producing for you. But even after that, you are now the person responsible. You've always been the person responsible for the breaking of this, the this of the this. And so this is a liability in terms of an investment, because it's going to always have issues.
Right.
Like, it's funny, I thought about, home ownership. I was like, home ownership, blah, blah, blah. You get into, it's like, I have dropped tens of thousands of dollars as a homeowner to keep my home in good shape. I wonder what those numbers look like when you go a bit, like truly when you get into a home. Look, if you break even, it's better than renting.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But I don't think any of my clients do the number. Like we go to lists and they're like, oh yeah, I've owned this for like 15 years or I've owned it for, they just look at the now numbers, but it's not like, what did you pay when you bought it? What were your closing costs? What were your, like adding up now how much have you spent on it? Okay. And now to get out of it, here's your commissions and here's like, where is that number really?
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true.
So that is interesting that Warren Buffett is like, notice he owns his place.
He owns his place and a ranch.
What's this ranch?
I don't know, he owns a 40-acre ranch.
Like a dude ranch? Like, can we go there?
Right? I want to go there.
I think with Warren Buffett.
He literally owns a ranch. I was like, I didn't know. Oh, yeah. It was a 40-acre ranch and his personal residence. I had no idea about the ranch. So,
okay, so I'm curious to hear that. So that's my immediate, like, I'm like, you jump into this, I'm like, let me tell you.
Well, and again, like with everything that I read about it, it seems like he's big on knowledge is power.
Oh, like I literally say that.
Yeah, like understanding what you're doing because of the fact that you're not just buying it, getting someone to rent it, and then sitting back and doing nothing and thinking that money's just going to come in.
So his argument is that's not passive then.
Right.
If it were truly passive, but then what's truly passive?
And I think too, it's the fact that it's if you're wanting to have an investment property, you have to look at the long game, which is kind of what you were saying. Yeah. Like you're not going to have it right away. So like I had a friend of mine who I think he owns close to 10 homes now because he did what he did it the right way when the interest rates were nothing.
Low, yeah.
And this was like 20 years ago and he bought a bunch of houses because he knew he could turn them into rentals for college kids.
Yeah.
And so he was playing the long game where he knew, all right, I've got all these houses. There is no income for me until I pay these off.
Right.
So he had a full-time job.
It's just an investment.
It was investment for the long term because now I think all the homes are paid off. Now he's sitting on $3 million of actual investment property because he's paid that off. That can now be
cha-ching.
Mostly passive income. I mean, obviously there's still work involved, but that's not. But he's not paying off a loan anymore.
I was about to. Okay, there's that. So now he's actually truly, and he could leverage those to do it again if he wanted to. But at this stage for him, it can be passive if everything costs money. You can literally be hands off, but at what expense? So all those, if he put all those 10 properties into a management company and they handled everything and they just called him when there were major issues, and it's got to be a company you trust because if you're that hands off, you got to know that they're fixing things and not just spending your money. And so
kind of like the situation we're in where they weren't doing that.
They were not.
And they were not taking care of it.
So they may not, and the people that own it may not know.
Right.
Because you're entrusting this company to kind of take care of your, like for example, Dan and Annabelle, like they're in Australia and have a guy managing their home that they own here.
Oh,
They're not here.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I'm here, but they're not like it's just that's the trade-off with anything. Like the only thing that's probably in Warren Buffett's opinion, and probably correctly so, is truly hands-off is the stock market.
Right.
Because you put your money in and it just goes up and down.
Right. So he's playing more of the game of investing in companies than running a real estate business. So that's kind of where I feel
Although isn't it him that bought?
He owns Berkshire, but I know. I was like Warren. I'm like,
come on, no.
I know.
You are in the real estate business. You bought a brokerage.
Yeah, he literally bought a brokerage,
a global brokerage,
which is hilarious that he still only has like 2 properties, and he's completely hands off on this company that he now owns.
I'm not gonna lie. So I'm an agent.
Yeah.
And I've had numerous clients and friends and cohorts be like, so when are you gonna start investing? And I can't see that, like apart from personal residences, and then personal residences for me are very, I'm not from America, I'm from Canada. It'd be great to own the place where I'm from. It'd be great to own, like we do business in different places. It'd be nice to have a place that we call home. And like, that's got more to do with creature comforts than looking at a list of places to own. Cause it's like, I'm going to invest in blah, blah. Like I've never thought, like right now, even in Portugal, like the golden visa, like they're running. So there's like a global investment hustle where they've got this golden visa in Portugal, and they're throwing it around the world saying, hey, if you come and buy any POS that we have over here, we'll grant you a visa to be in Portugal, live da 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 da, so
right. Oh, interesting.
It's just and it's mental to me that there's just so many people around the world that are doing this. Like they're literally like,
right.
Oh, I'll just buy something in Portugal. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. So I mean, I think his whole thing was, if this is what you want to do, understand what you're getting into.
And that's just like sage advice.
Yeah, like if you want to run, this is a business. If this is the business you want to run, then yes, buy and rent out, and that's just understand that that's not just, you're not doing it and then sitting back and doing nothing. It will fall apart. Like your own home. Well, I mean, it's the same thing. It's now you have more than one home that you're working on. So,
and so that stresses me.
Right, exactly. It's like, how stressful it is owning one home. Imagine owning more.
The work that I've been doing to keep my very, like, you would not think that there needs to be work done on my home, but like, I just had the pressure wash the other week, and just regular maintenance that's not, chump change.
Yeah.
I'm like, but to do this, I'm like,
right.
Yeah, as I think about that, I'm like, well, we'll be in a different place when that happens.
Right, yeah.
Someone else will think about those things, not me.
Exactly.
I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just so much. Like cleaning it and the roof and the HVAC had to get replaced last summer. Like,
done. Yeah. So, and I think with that, what the beautiful part is, if you look at it from a different perspective, is what we're doing. Because I mean, if you're wanting to invest in more property, then you could set it up to where, like we had talked several episodes ago about co-ownership. Go in with a friend.
Yeah.
Treat it like a timeshare. You still own 50% of a second home, which is amazing. So you're still building equity.
I wonder if that's a new thing.
So that's
this co-ownership thing, because typically, like when someone would buy a home, it was always a husband and wife or a single.
Right.
And then during the pandemic, I got a few, not a lot, but a few of like, oh, my roommate, or like these very interesting collaborations of people that were applying for a loan together, and I think, and this is the part where I'm still newer into business, where it's like Warren Buffett would probably say, if you're going to do that, make an LLC. So that there's like, it's not just individual to individual.
Right.
Because God forbid the other individual end up in a bankruptcy or something toxic, and then it actually pulls you into it, because now you
can just get messy.
Very.
Yeah. Well, no, because, remember I said though, and so this is curious that you even brought that up, because I remember saying when they did it, the way that co-ownership worked, you actually have two contracts. So so they actually are only buying 50% of the property.
That is so problematic though, because it's like, which 50% do you own? I get the fridge.
And I think that's why there's actually agents that specialize in co-ownership, because it's so convoluted. But even from like a practical standpoint, like just to like, I guess, and I said this too, like as I deal with people outside of real estate, right?
I have such a contract mindset now, because I live in you were in contracts with me, then you were out for a minute, now you're back in it. But you've learned so much about
what conveys, what's not,
and just the ramifications of it not being written correctly or worded right, or like just all these. So now when you take that outside of real estate or into any other avenue where when you're going to join somebody in a venture, you're looking at, like, now I see the outcomes in so many ways where, I feel like if you built a business together, it was an LLC purchase, that would be a very safe space.
Because
then the business would own it, not either, and whatever happens does not affect the business. So,
no, that's true. No, I mean, I think
we are totally ripping about stuff we don't know anything about.
I feel like that would make sense though.
That's what I would do.
I mean, I think that's instead of having two contracts.
That's what we'll do. Yeah, it's going to be
just run it
LLC
that way.
Owned,
because you can still Airbnb if you're
everything
not
in the LLC.
if you're not doing something in the home, as opposed to having a renter doing Airbnb, so that way it's less involved.
I wonder what Warren Buffett would say about the Airbnb generation.
I'm very curious about that.
Because he's clearly speaking about investment properties like in rental capacity versus the short term.
Yeah.
And then also like we could do a whole podcast on Airbnb because that market has shifted significantly because I feel like hotels are making a resurgence. I feel like
they totally are.
I feel like the hotels are like
totally are.
The hotels are like, we're getting crushed, and then they like came back with a vengeance. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we're offering you the sun, moon, and stars, and like
fully. I mean, absolutely. So that would be an interesting thing. And actually, we know several people that run Airbnbs.
Yes.
So that would be very curious
and just
to
how
hear about that.
Because it's so location specific, but like here in Virginia, if you're an Airbnb owner, the government was starting to make it difficult, like just with the taxes, and like the government started to step in and regulate to kind of. It makes you wonder, like, were they in bed with the hotels? The hoteliers were like, "Listen, government, we are not making money anymore."
Right? Everyone's using these Airbnbs.
But legit, people would be like, "I'm gonna go on travel to Europe for 3 weeks and then Airbnb their house, like their personal."
Oh, absolutely! They pay their whole mortgage.
Like anything was an Airbnb.
Anything was Airbnb. No, you could literally, I mean, people are Airbnb pools.
I would, yes.
I
would never. No, there's no one's coming into my space.
No, would not do it. Not do it. So I brought all of this up because we talked last week about the EXP model
with its passive. I wonder what Warren Buffett feels about that.
Right,
because we are publicly traded, Warren.
Right, I know. So
are you listening, Warren?
And one of the things that we didn't talk about, which I thought was very interesting, that Pablo mentioned in his fantastic video that he does about explaining. Well, no, I don't know if you remember this from the video, but he talked about how he originally thought about getting into investment properties until he started to run the numbers.
No, I don't remember that part. But I know a lot of agents that if you put, that's Warren Buffett is a numbers man. If you put the digits down on investment properties, the damage that they do, that like, and the value that like, I've been showing properties recently, where like I've gone in and it looked like someone had flipped it and maybe rented it. And it's like, because here's the problem. Okay, so here's the other problem. If you get, let's say you get 5 investment properties because you managed to convince the bank to give you 5 loans. And just so you know, it's possible because you acquire first property, put a renter in it, that's off your debt to income plate. So the bank doesn't look at that. So your income now allows you to buy the second one, put a renter in it. Okay, that's off your financial plate. So you can continue. Here's the problem. God forbid any of these people lose their job. If your income doesn't support all those properties, we're looking at massive foreclosures. So that's the one thing that I think could end up happening with foreclosures is that there were some gung-ho investors that were doing loan after loan after loan after loan, and this economy continues to plummet. There's going to be some, because I'm noticing a couple foreclosures pop up now. I'm like, oh, here we go.
Like starting to come back.
Here we go, yeah.
Well, Pablo said that when he's in Canada.
Oh, yeah, he's my people.
Yeah, so he and his wife were very successful with EXP. So when before they got into the company, they were looking at getting into investments. And they're like, okay, so what he had shown in the video was he wanted to have 10 properties. And so he was just throwing out the number that each one would be $500,000 and that you were going to have to come up with 20% for the down payment.
Of each.
For each one, which is $1 million. Total. And that's after-tax money that you have to have in order to buy those 10 properties.
That's the after-tax,
Yeah, and so that's a lot of cash to come up with. And so he said coming up with all of that, and then this seemed low, but and I don't know if it's because if this is like considered profit after everything is paid, but he said it would generate $500 per month per property. So I'm assuming that's maybe like after the mortgage is paid, after like any like if it comes with utilities.
Well, that's again back to the mortgage, right? So yeah, he's probably looking at what his mortgage would be to the rent. And there's only $500 a month left over. And even that $500, and I said this to these new investors that I met.
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, you've got about a $300 buffer between what that house we looked at was going to cost and what I knew a mortgage would roughly go for at that range.
Right.
I'm like, you're looking about 300. I said, I would never touch that 300.
No.
You put that 300 away in a bank because you're going to have a leak. You're going to, like, something's going to come up and you can't be strapped and leave this tenant without an ability.
Yeah. So he's like, all of a sudden I was looking at only having $60,000 a year.
For the million you put up.
For the million that you put up, and for 10 properties that you now have tenants, toilets, and taxes to deal with.
Is that his phrase?
That's what his phrase, which I thought was hilarious.
Tenants, toilets, and taxes.
And I was like, wow. So
the taxes are a monster.
Yeah. So his point being, like, that's a lot. That's a lot of work.
The phrase that keeps coming that just popped in my head was "work smarter, not harder." So
yeah, exactly. So that was his whole thing.
There's a lot of opportunity out there for you. Like we've said this 1,000 times. There's so many ways for you to generate money.
Yeah.
Do it in a way that makes you happy. Now, here's the thing. There are some people, Chad, and these are the people I think should be investors, that love to fix. I mean, like literally love to go fix houses and get hands straight and do plumbing and do like they have a passion for that.
Yeah.
You should be the investment owner because that's where the bulk of the money, like guy who doesn't know how to fix a toilet at home in his 9-to-5 job, that may not be the right avenue for you.
May not be the way to go.
No, because you don't even know if, you're going to get raked over the coals by someone seeing you coming, not knowing any difference.
Yeah, but if that's something that you love, then that's great.
Oh my gosh.
Just knowing that is your business. That's what you're doing.
Like, that would be that's your livelihood.
Yeah, that is your livelihood. Yeah. That's what you're loving to do. But if your goal is investments and to create passive income,
well, then
EXP also has all the stock.
Oh, okay. Well, if we're gonna go there,
right? Well, that was basically his whole point. Was then he realized EXP was giving him so many more opportunities to create income streams.
I literally had a client today. Okay, I don't know if we have time for this. I literally had a client today. I got on the phone with them, and he was like, "Do we have a second?"
Yeah, we have a second.
I got on the phone with them, and we were talking about a deal or whatever. And he's an old hat in town. Like he knows a lot of all the people. And it lucked out that I ended up being his agent because he knew so many agents in town. Anyway, a long story short, there was a rift about it, whatever. And he's just like, "Why are you even at EXP? Because I could introduce you to anyone in every brokerage in town. They'd probably be happy to have you." And I said, "Oh, I'm not interested in that."
No, thanks.
He goes, he tripped. He tripped a minute. He's like, "Okay." He goes, and this guy's like, he's former banker, right? So he's got that like banker approach to things. He's like, "Okay, now I'm curious. He's like, what? Why would you not be interested?" He's like, I know every important broker in town. And I was like, I said, "Let me put it this way." I said, I was in 2 brokerages before this one, and I realized that I was the workhorse in the situation, that the broker, like I was actually providing for them more times than they were providing for me. And I said, so I shifted. I said, when I went looking for a new agency, I was asking everyone what they were going to do for me. That's what he was like, "Oh." I was like, "Right." I said, "So," he said, "I have now worked with agents around the world." He's like, "Oh, well, you have sites bigger than Lynchburg." I'm like, "Oh, yes. Sir.
Oh, yes.
Yes, I do."
That is accurate.
Yes, I do. But not everybody does.
No.
Like, clearly he's very happy to be like the biggest fish in this pond, and I love that for him.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm not from here. So my mindset was always something more than I'm not from here. Didn't mean I would never not stay here. I just didn't. This was never like, I was never so rooted that this world was all I needed. I've always needed more. Like we talked about that. I was like, I want to be able to go to all these places. Like, yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, well, good. There we go.
That's it.
I love it.
So join next week because it's amazing.
Next week is amazing.
That's it.
So, are you going to do fun facts?
Fun Fact Friday.
Fun Fact Friday. It's so good.
Oh my gosh, she loves fun facts. You guys, I'm like so tired today. So I'm drinking all the coffee.
We are a little tired today.
We're drinking all the coffee.
All right. So 1 in 10 Americans sell their home due to paranormal activity.
Oh my gosh.
Did you know that?
Oh my gosh. Were you inspired because of the vortex outside my house?
We both have got a lot going on in our homes. But we're not selling. It's fine.
No,
it's fine.
Look, they're going to keep hitting the side of my house, and it is fine. We just had the vortex closes, and then they smash
Exactly. But I found this to be interesting. So half of the encounters that have occurred in these homes had 2 floors.
Okay, is that just a random statistic?
I mean, it is a random statistic.
Like it just worked out because I mean,
Yeah,
you could
I
also
think
say
that-
like how many 2-floor homes are there in America?
Right,
Does
I
that
mean-
then measure itself out? I'd be more interested in knowing where these homes were.
Right.
Like, are these in like
where are the 1 in 10?
Yeah. Where are the
Probably Massachusetts.
Well, no. To be fair, we live in a very deeply historic.
Yeah, everything happens
like
on
the
the East Coast.
beginning of America is on these grounds, and so like there's supposedly massive amounts of like things.
Yeah. It's all East Coast.
Yeah.
Coast,
Oh,
man.
deep, crazy history.
Yeah.
So that's wild.
Well, I thought that was very.
I love that you
very
found that
curious.
because we joke about that.
We've joked about it so much. I was like, wow, 1 in 10.
I have to tell them literally one day I forget why I looked at it. So you got the camera on the front door. And I was scrolling back and like towards the end of the night, right? There was this like, it said sound. And I was like, sound is so vague. So I scrolled and it was like, all you hear is this, right? I was like, what was that? So like I literally asked my neighbors, like we heard nothing. Like I listened to the camera in the back of the house, nothing.
Nothing.
I was like, what was that? So we decided it was a portal opening.
It's just a portal right outside the house.
Just outside the house.
Perfect.
It's fine. I still need to put a camera by my garage so we can catch it.
Oh, it was true. We need to see it.
Catch that.
See
And
it.
then we'll do that next.
We
Anyway, we found that little
All right,
insight
guys.
into our lives.
That's right. See you next week.
Cheers.